Cheers, guys.
Cheers indeed. And you know what? This might be a green screen. Or it might not be a green screen. But I can tell you what it really is. It's Gaming Friday. Yeah.
Gaming Friday indeed. January 20th, 2017. Let's jump right into VR news, guys, and chat. Just a little update on the Zenimax versus Oculus. Not a lot happened today, but what did happen was pretty critical to the trial. This was a day of experts, quote unquote. So, Brendan Arib is who we talked about yesterday. He'd finished his rounds, and after finishing his round of questioning, it was time for Zenimax lawyer Sammy to call up the first of their experts. And the first person they called up was Professor David Dobkin of Princeton. He was also dean for the Faculty of Computer Sciences. Research areas: graphics, vision, security, privacy, policy. So I would say he, is fairly versed in those areas of the code base. Now, you might look at that and say, okay, yeah, but he doesn't understand virtual reality. True, but he certainly would understand plagiarism and a bunch of other things. He's got his PhD from Harvard in '73. So this is a guy who has been around in programming, computer science for a hell of a long time. Let's talk about what he had to say. So most of the rest of the day was exactly that, looking at a lot of code. There was a lot of code projected. And of course, what they would do in a case like this is take the Zenimax code, compare that to the Oculus, all of which would have been subpoenaed, just like the emails. And that's what he would base his opinion off of. And after that, he said he was absolutely certain Oculus copied from Zenimax code. All right. Whether he did or not, we still may never know the truth, even at the end of this, because the jury will be making a decision based on really who put up the better case. Now, even if he did copy, how much did he copy? Was it 0.5%? Was it 20%? 30%? We don't know. Maybe that will come out, but it didn't while he was on the stand. In fact, the next person that came up was another one of their experts, this time Professor Michael Gleicher. He's a professor from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and his areas of specialty are data visualization and robotics. So again, you could make the argument that he's certainly an expert in the field. They didn't get to his opinion of the code. They had just started that. That's probably what we're going to hear on Monday. It's going to be interesting to see where Oculus goes with their experts, because you can bet they're going to have their own. And it'll be interesting to see, in terms of credentials, how they differ from the experts that Zenimax has brought up. So that'll be interesting. We'll follow that here. All right, next news story, and thanks to Roger Coker for this. He's a longtime dedicated viewer to the channel and mentioned this to me. Now, I remember seeing it. Don't know why I didn't include it, but thank you, Roger. It is here now. So what Valve also did during that Reddit AMA with Gabe Newell and a lot of the staff, the engineers from Valve, is they confirmed that more headsets would be compatible with SteamVR tracking. So, of course, that opens the doors for lots of possibilities and lots of others to help bring SteamVR even more to the forefront of VR. And Joe Ludwig, he is from Valve. He's one of the engineers. We talked about him a couple of times with other posts. This is what he said about that. He basically said 500 companies have signed up to use Lighthouse. Some of them are making HMDs. Didn't commit to any numbers. A few of them, he says, have talked about that, but a bunch more will announce when they are ready. He says, as far as we know, everything is in place for any store to support the Vive. He talked about the controller production line, the enhancements they've made for that so that they can keep up with demand if other companies do start producing their own headsets. And that's basically what he ended the post with. Using automation allows us to keep production local, which means our employees can be more hands-on with the manufacturing process. That works a lot better with how we work as an organization. So very cool. Be interesting to see some other companies. One of the comments I read about today, I think it was on yesterday's video, definitely it was yesterday's video, was someone pointing out the LG being a company, Korean company, that is probably going to be creating one of the HMDs. So that would be interesting, because I like, just as a general thing, a fan of LG products. I like Samsung products as well. Be interesting to see where they go aesthetically, design-wise, because we've seen these Windows ones, and they've either tended to kind of design Rift-wise, or they've kind of gone the Sony PlayStation VR. Nobody's really gone in the Vive direction directly. It's kind of been Rift or PSVR. And yeah, it'll be interesting. See where they go. Next news piece, YouTube 1.0 update on the PlayStation 4 adds PlayStation VR support. And now we have heard that the 1.09 update, I haven't turned my PlayStation 4 on in a couple of days. That's going to change tonight. But apparently the 1.09 update for PlayStation 4s has been uploaded globally. So it should be available to everyone in all regions. And yeah, YouTube on PlayStation currently supports 2D 360 degree as well as 3D 360 degree, now HMD friendly. So very cool. Now, next up, this is a neat video. Have a look at this, guys. This is a Vive developer showing how the trackers from Vive can produce and provide full body presence. Now, the fella in the video is Steve Bowler. He's the president and co-founder of Cloudgate Studios. He posted a video of himself in a room using the two trackers. He put one on each foot on his body. And what's neat about that is while he's walking around, he's kicking barrels, whacking stuff off of shelves, touching with his hand his own feet. That feeling of presence would be just so enhanced with that type of tracking. It'll be interesting to see how that gets applied to entertainment, to gaming, but very cool to have that be a capability, right? That feeling of presence with your body actually in that environment. Very cool stuff. Link for that video in the description below. And then let's round it off with Dungeons and Dragons coming to augmented reality and virtual reality. We just don't know what form that's going to take, but Wizards of the Coast, they are the current rights holders since they purchased from the now long gone TSR, who I do miss, and I think you do too, EXIDY?
Miss him in my heart.
Exactly. Look, Dungeons and Dragons, I've talked about this before, just to go a little anecdotal here, is a game that means a lot to me in terms of my love of gaming. That was absolutely one, if not the main catalyst for that. I still remember EXIDY, we're 11 years old, with a handful of modules and taking me through Secret of Bone Hill. Yeah. Man, to this day, I can imagine the layout of that module in my head.
Legendary module. Same with me with Castle Amber. It was a basic D&D one. We played it for advanced. It was fantastic.
It was fantastic. And why I bring that up, guys, is it was as close to virtual reality as you had back then. The computer graphics sure as hell weren't 3D as a rule. They didn't make you feel transported somewhere else in that same way as your own imagination. There was no CGI or GPU in the day, there still isn't, that can match up with your imagination. So imagining those, and now hopefully with virtual reality, being able to experience it at that level. I mean, I get the augmented side, having a real table superimposed with, the fantasy D&D splashings over top, and people not having to be in the same room. That's one way to enjoy that. But another way is through virtual reality, hell, even mixed, just to be able to sit wherever you happen to be and join in on a good old game of Dungeons and
I
Dragons.
think the new generation of kids coming up that are going to be learning fantasy role-playing games for the first time are going to have just a fantastic experience.
Oh, exactly. Much like we did.
Like we did, maybe even better.
But in our heads. Very cool. That's coming. So the point of the article was Chris Cox, who's the president of Wizards of the Coast, recently hired a veteran video and PC gaming executive, David Schwartz, to lead and build a new publishing team that, according to him, is going to explore partnerships and collaboration with other companies to bring Dungeons & Dragons and other Wizards of the Coast properties like Magic the Gathering, the card game, to quote-unquote unexpected settings, genres, and platforms. Very cool. Can't wait for that. That would probably get me playing Dungeons & Dragons again, because right now, I say it all the time, my time, like, this is my gaming night. And yeah, it's just not practical to gather around a table with a group of adults and find the time to play. So very cool. All right, guys, that is it for tonight's news episode. Cheers as always.